Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Mr. Shank, coming to you live from Walker Grant Middle School. In this video, I'm going to be working on this wonderful ordering real numbers practice number 2. So make sure that you are seeing how to do this. And again, as always, make sure you're using that wonderful Desmos calculator. Make sure you can, have it side by side for yourself. That way it is easier to work with and easier to see. And just like before, again, make sure you're kind of only typing in one digit per column. That way you can line those columns up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this first one. I have some real numbers here, and I'm going to change them to decimal form, and then I will order them. So I'll do one step at a time. First thing I want to do first is I want to put these decimal places down, so that way I have enough space, and that way they're all lined up. So I have 3 numbers. I'm going to do 1, I'm going to do another one, and 3. So that way I can, show, hey, I'm using 1 digit per column. So now let me do with this, I'm going to have, alright, for that Desmos calculator, pull it up on that side. I'm going to change that 1.41% to a decimal. So how would I do that? Well, I have to have this entire value, and I have to have it divided by 100. So I have to have 1.41. Again, it's percent. That means per 100. So I have to divide it by 100 to get my decimal value. So now let me type that in. So I have 0.0141. You want to make sure that you are going the entire way out. That way you have and are able to compare those decimal places very simply for yourself. So now for this next one, it says, alright, it has 3 and 5/8. So how would I change this mixed number to a decimal? Well, just like you read it, and just like it says, it's saying it's the entire, it's the whole plus the part. So I'm going to say it's going to be the whole number plus the part. So I have plus 5/8. So I'm going to have my entire value be 3.625. So again, make sure to see how it's nice and spaced out, everything's lined up, and the columns are easy to see. For scientific notation, make sure again in the video for the notes, again, that you can do it by hand. So I would say, okay, I would circle, let me actually see if I can do this here. I'm going to circle, and I'm going to say, alright, let me not make it too loud. So let me say I'm going to circle and do like this. I'd say, alright, I have my exponent is -5, so that means I'm going to move it to the left 5 steps. And so I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That kind of gets sloppy, but again, if it's on paper, it's a little bit easier to see. I'd fill in those spaces with zeros, like you see, and I have my values. So it kind of gets a little bit rough there. However, let me see if I can go the whole way back. Let's do it using that Desmos calculator. That way we know our answer is correct. So let's say, let's make it look exactly how it says. So I have 3.1, and then I have times. Again, make sure that's a multiplication. I have times, and then 10, and then you want to make sure you have that exponent. So again, you want to hit that A to the B button. Again, that A to the B button lets you do a different exponent. So let me do that again. See, as soon as I click on it, notice how that cursor goes up. So that's going to your exponent or your power. And so I'm going to say, all right, I have a -5. So make sure you can see it like that. And so maybe actually, let me do, can I spread it out a little bit more? So let me do times 10. Let's try maybe one more over. Maybe it's not letting me. So once you have your decimal value for your wonderful scientific notation, let me actually move this over a little bit so that way you guys can see it. Again, I kind of have this drawn out. I said that, okay, as you circle your exponent, and I'm saying I'm going to move it to the left, since we have a negative exponent, I'm going to move this decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the left. So once I do that, I can have in its place those zeros. And kind of another way to see it is, hey, I have 5 zeros in here. So when I go to type this in, I want to make sure that, hey, I have 5 zeros. So let me move this back over. So let me have, let's say, 0 point. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can have, again, it's okay if it goes out of the box. That's okay. Again, that's kind of a really small number, so it's going to be really easy to show which one we need. So again, what do we have here? Well, we're saying that, hey, let me hide this since I'm done with it. Alright, so I have these values here. So what am I going to do with it? Well, all I'm going to say is I need to line up these columns, and I need to say, alright, I'm now going to place them in order. So let me switch over for you guys. So I'm going to say, alright, when I go to order them, I'm going to be looking at these place value columns. So as you line them up, you can say, alright, I'm looking for ascending order. And so what does that mean again? Well, that very simply means that I have the lowest number, or the smallest number, so I'm going up the staircase. So I'm going from the least up to the greatest. So I need to find the smallest number. So out of these, which one is going to be the smallest? Well, if you look carefully, I can line them up, and I can say, okay, I'm going to line up my place value columns. I'm going to clear this out so I can just use it as a cover. Again, I usually do this with my hand, but I want to at least show you guys how it works. So I have my place value columns here, and I'm going to say, alright, I'm going to cover these up, and so I'm looking for the lowest number. So out of these three, which one is the smallest? Well, I have two that are tied, so I have a 0 and a 0. So I need to now move this out again to the next decimal place. Which one's smaller? 0, 0, still the same. So again, each time it's tied, I have to move it to the right one more time. So out of these three numbers, which one's the smallest? Or which one is the lowest price, if you want to think about it in terms of money? Well, the one that has a 0 in it is going to be the least. And so I'm going to say that in original form, the lowest number is going to be this scientific notation one. So I'm going to put this as the one that's least. And what I can do now is I can go ahead and cross out, since I used it, I can cross it out. So now that I have that, I'm going to say, okay, out of these ones remaining, which one is the smallest? Well, very simply, it's going to be that next one, which is going to be that 1.41%. And then the greatest value, again, make sure you cross it out as you go through. Then the greatest value is going to be the mixed number, since it has a full whole number in it. So again, make sure you're seeing how these work. Again, so we're talking about ascending order, so we're going from least, let me actually write that, we're going from least to greatest. Alright, so let me scroll down and I'll line it up for ourselves, if that's possible. So let me have for this one, same kind of setup. You want to make sure that you have your grid in the middle, because we're going to change it to a decimal first, and then we're going to order them next. So I have here for these, I have first one is going to be 139%, so I need to change that to a decimal. Again, it's going to look like this. I'm going to say 139 divided by 100. So again, it's percent, so it has to be per 100. So I'm going to type in my decimals. I kind of see that I have a big number over here, so I'm going to give myself plenty of space. And so let's say I have, let's say a decimal. So I have 1, 2, and 3. I'll give myself a little bit more space. Now we're good. Alright. So I'm going to say, alright, I have For this first number, I have 1.3939. And so now I need to change this scientific notation. Let's see if it works on the Desmos calculator again. So it's 6.25 and times 10. I need to do the A to the B button, and I have to the 4th power. So again, the positive exponents, those usually work pretty well, but same kind of idea. If you wanted to do it by hand, again, you would move, let me draw it for you. So you'd say, okay, I circle the exponent, I'm moving it to the right now, so I do 1, 2, 3, 4. So I move that decimal place 4 times to the right. So again, make sure you're moving it to the right 4 times, and so now I have my decimal value of 62,000. So I need to have it like this. Again, I use the grid, that way it is nice and lined up for ourselves. And lastly, our next value we have is negative. So I type it exactly how it looks, negative square root of 48. And I'm going to only mainly concentrate on those first 2 decimal places, that way it keeps it simple. So I have a negative number, so I have negative, and then 6, and 0.92. So I need to now order these in descending order. So what does that mean? So that just means that I'm going from the greatest down to the least. So I'm actually going down the staircase now. So I'm going to order from greatest to least. So I'm going to clear that out. And so now I'm going to say, all right, as I line these up, I'm going from, let me write that down so I don't forget. I said I need to go now from greatest to least. Make sure you guys can see. Let me back that up. Try it one more time. So we said we need to go greatest to least. There we go. So now I have that, I need to find it, all right, and say which one is the largest. So as I cover up these decimal place values, which one's going to be the largest? We have 62,000 or negative 6. Well, very obviously that 62,000 is going to be my largest, and so I'm going to say that my largest number is the scientific notation, and go ahead and cross it out as you use it once. So I can go ahead and cross that out since I used it once. And now, okay, of the ones remaining, I cover it up and say, okay, which one is the largest? I have positive 1 or negative 6. Which one is larger? The 1 is larger. So again, make sure you're kind of thinking on a number line where you're moving. So I'm going from the right side down to the left. And so I'm going to say, okay, hey, on that number line, I have that 139% as my next largest number, and cross it out as you use it. And so now I'm going to say that the negative square root of 48 is going to be my smallest number, or my lowest number. Again, notice how it's the furthest left on that number line. So again, make sure you're seeing how those work. As always, make sure you can pause, rewind, replay for yourself. And so for this last one, line it up for us. That way you can see where we're at. So again, I have my decimal form in the center and my original on the left. And so now I want to say, all right, again, I need to change this to a decimal form. So I have negative, so I have negative 4, and, so I need to have that part. So I have and, so I have plus, and 4 over 7. So again, I kind of want to use those first 2 decimal places. So in order to do that, maybe I want to say I want to round. So I want to round my answer to the second decimal place. Again, I can type it just like that, and so I have it in there. So now I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to have a negative, let me actually say this. Make sure that you are saying that's in the entire part, so I need to actually say minus. So let's actually include that, because it's saying the entire thing is negative. So I need to say it's going to be negative 4.57. So I'm going to say, all right, let's have a decimal, decimal, and another decimal. So that way I have my space for my numbers. So I'm going to say, all right, I have negative 4.57. Again, the reason why I had to change on my Desmos calculator here, I was used to doing the plus, but since I'm talking about a negative number, I have to have a minus there. Make sure, same kind of idea. You want to say, all right, for the scientific notation, I have 5.9. I'm going to say times 10. And again, you hit that A to the B button. I'm going to say to the negative 2 power. So again, this one works real simple. Make sure you type it in. So I'm going to say, again, notice how there's no negative sign out front. That means our value is a positive number, so keep that in mind. So make sure you're only using 1 digit per column. That way you are good. And our last value, we have negative square root of 34. Again, you can round that answer to the second decimal place. That way it's a little bit easier to evaluate. So I'm going to say I have negative 5 and then 83. Make sure you're only typing 1 decimal, or excuse me, 1 digit per column. So now, let's check it out. What do we have? So I'm looking to order these values in ascending order. So now I'm going to take and switch this over. So since I'm talking about ascending order, again, that's going to be least to greatest. I'm going to go draw that in for ourselves. We have least to greatest. And so now, let me line up my columns. I'm saying that, hey, which one is the lowest? I cover up these values. Okay, I'm starting now to the far left on my number line. Which one is going to be further to the left on my number line? Would it be -4, 0, or -5? Well, very good. It should be -5. And so I'm going to say that in original form, that negative square root is going to be our least or our lowest value. Cross it out as you use it. And so now we have, after that, we should have our, which one's lower, -4 or 0. We would say that, hey, -4 is going to be lower. And so we have, in original form, is that mixed number. Again, cross it out as you use it. And lastly, but not leastly this time, is our next value. And so we have, in original form, is at 5.9 times 10 to the -2 power. So again, this is the lowest number to the greatest number for ascending. So again, make sure this is a little bit longer, but I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases. Again, if you have any questions, hit me up on email, hit me up on Teams, and as always, super slam that subscribe button.